And welcome to Fox Weather Philly, a special edition with the Winter Weather Outlook. I'm meteorologist Kathy Orr.
Hey, I'm meteorologist Drew Anderson, and what a treat it is to have new folks watching us. We do this show every weekday at 3:30. It's Fox Weather Philly, but today I'm excited we get to talk snow.
Yes, and this is the first time we've ever done the Winter Weather Outlook on Fox Local, on Fox Weather Philly, so it's a treat for us as well. So should we dig into this?
Oh yeah, there's some huge clear signals, particularly because of the weather we've had late, that's making it very clear what this winter will be like. So that is why we get to do this so early. But the truth is, it's not early, it's November, just like that.
It is, and even though this week is going to have some warming temperatures, it is going to turn, and we all know that the shoe is going to drop, and sooner or later it's going to be cold. The winter weather gear is going to be out in full force, and we're not going to be, back and forth between winter and spring or fall. It's going to lock in. And the one thing we have to say is we've been forecasting a La Nina, and this forecast is based on the fact that that forecast will continue through the winter months as forecast. And if it doesn't, then we'll have to make some tweaks to the forecast. But right now, it is looking like it's going to be a La Nina, and that's what this forecast is based on. So let's get right to it. Let's take you to the official Weather Authority Winter Weather Outlook. So Drew, first let's talk about all the things that we look at when we're talking about a winter weather forecast. Obviously, when we're doing analysis, there's things that we look at. The global climate signals, of course, that's El Nino or La Nina. It's also something called the PDO, which we'll explain. Also, local climate anomalies that we are looking at as well, like you're talking about, recent trends that have been really significant this year, especially in September and October.
Yeah, let's think about the last 2 months. Crazy dry. We know that all firsthand. I'm thankful we get a Halloween treat Friday morning. We actually get some rain. Not a soaker like we're waiting for, but at least some showers. But when you take a look at how dry it's been, because this is historical for the Philadelphia area, also it's been really warm. Not only in October, but also September. September and October both really dry. When you look at those years that have also been really warm, really dry, what were the winters like? There's something clear in the data, and we're going to share that with you.
And we don't always have that opportunity, and we just happen to have that, cross-reference that with snow amounts, and I think you're going to be surprised at what we found. Also, the trends, what were the last few winters like? And one of our global climate signals is helping guide us with this as well, because the last few winters have been on the mild side, but we also have a global climate model that has been consistent as well. So it seems like some of the local trends are lining up with those global trends, so we're even more confident with this forecast this winter. So this is pretty exciting stuff. So let's take a quick look at our checklist here. So first of all, when we're looking at the winter forecasting, we're looking at a La Nina this year. It was supposed to form earlier. The forecast is for it to really get going in the month of November. Overall cool pattern in the Pacific. I was talking about that before, the PDO, the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. We'll explain what that is. Lasting highs and lows, that would be the NAO. We're going to be seeing that, but it's not really defined what exactly is going to happen this winter with those cold weather outbreaks.
And that's one of those things where it helps you with the forecast and say a week to 2 weeks from now to signal, okay, now we're going to get the snow, because those things, and what we're just talking about is you get these big areas of high and low pressure to kind of set up in different parts of the world, and that affects our jet stream. So when this pattern happens, well, then it means maybe we have cold enough for snow. And depending upon where the jet stream is, that's your storm track. So you need the cold and you need the moisture to come up the jet stream, come up that storm track. And that's some of the things we use to forecast when we're closer in time. Farther in time, these are some of the other things that we look at, as we saw on the checklist, to kind of give us these indicators as we head into the winter. Kathy, you've done a lot of research on Siberia, of all places, over in Asia.
Yes, and that's usually a signal as well. And I'm seeing some signals that it would lean toward a milder winter, but then some not. So that's why I have a little question mark there. And also the continued warmth. That's what we've been looking at, as Drew mentioned. I mean, this October, with no snow and a record breaker, we've never seen in October without any precipitation, any rain.
Yeah, we just had a couple sprinkles here and there, nothing measurable, so nothing over 0.01 at the Philly airport. But something else in terms of just that warmth, not only is it here at home, but it seems every year the Earth as a whole sets a record for the hottest year on record, and it happens again and again and again. So overall, we're in this warm phase, and we've heard that, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're not getting any snow.
No, it doesn't.
There's a lot more at play. We could easily get a blizzard here or there despite the Earth as a whole getting warm. It just has to do with some of those factors that we brought up, because it's all about where's the cold, where's the jet stream.
Exactly. And with this October with no rain, obviously that's something that hasn't happened before, and we're going to see more of this in a warming world. Also, storms that are energized that we haven't seen before, the flooding that we've seen, the drought that we've seen. So that's something that we'll be seeing as well as we look ahead. So, well, without further ado, I think we need to dig into these numbers. So the first player, of course, is La Nina. And we talked about the fact that with La Nina, it is a change in the jet stream. You can see the Pacific jet, that moisture, the polar jet, the cold. That's what Drew's talking about, the cold and the moisture coming together. It's more to the north in a typical La Nina year. So that means the Great Lakes, the Northern Plains, even into New England. Yes, you get the cold. You also get the moisture. We have more clipper systems, and we're on the warmer side. So the big cities like New York, especially Philadelphia, D.C., the farther you go south, we are in more of a wintry mix situation or a wintry mess, and that's what keeps our snow totals down. But it doesn't take much to have a flip. And have a storm come up the East Coast and just blow everything. Like, that's always a possibility.
Just think, a little dip in the jet stream gets that cold air to pool, and why right now with La Nina we're set up for these little pieces of the storm, little pieces of moisture to come by, little bits of the cold. We can get a dip that can last for days, then the moisture's in place. You know, last winter, the moisture was in place. 2 of the winter months was well above average when it came to rainfall. So we're going to get the moisture. The problem is, do we have the cold or not?
That is going to be, and this is not that encouraging. This is the PDO I was talking about earlier. So see how those lines going down? Obviously, blue indicates cold. That is an indicator that we'll have a milder winter. And look at all those years that it's been in that negative, and that's since March of 2020. And coming up, you're going to see all those snow accumulations since 2020, and they're low. And obviously, when we look at this, the Pacific oscillation, this is very much tied to that.
So what you're looking at right here is we're looking at the whole Pacific Ocean completely. La Nina, El Nino, it's more looking at the Pacific Ocean off the coast of South America. This is looking holistically, and overall, it's been cold. And the reason that matters is that affects where our jet stream sets up. And it sets up such that we're on the warmer side of the jet stream. The jet stream, by the way, it's that barrier between cold air to the north and warm air to the south, in addition to being our storm track. So that's why we talk so much about it, particularly for nor'easters when it comes to snow. So this is an interesting signal saying not looking that good for snow yet again.
Okay, well, we have to take a short break. And when we come back in 2 minutes, we're going to start digging into the numbers, everything from how much snow to how many trips to the grocery store, and of course, when will the cold air be here? We'll talk more about that with your winter weather outlook after this. And welcome back to Fox Weather Philly. I'm meteorologist Kathy Orr.
So excited to be here. Meteorologist Drew Anderson. It's time to get into the forecast. Let's help everyone plan for this winter. So let's talk temps.
Okay, let's talk about it. When we look at the averages, this is from the Climate Prediction Center for November, December, and January. I mean, look at this map, Drew, where you see that orange color. The darker it gets, the better chance of having a above average period. But you can see, I mean, the orange is most of the country, with the exception of the plains in the Pacific Northwest. So we're talking about, obviously, above average temperatures as we go through the period. Now, that's November and December and January. Obviously doesn't include February, but above average temperatures expected during that period. Doesn't mean every day is going to be above average, but overall, that is definitely the trend. Now, here we go. This is the meteorological winter, December, January, and February. The warm air actually expands.
So here's what this boils down to. The cold is going to be in the middle of winter, because those trends showing you that the warm expands as winter goes on just means as we get into February, so you pass Groundhog Day, which is, by the way, the middle of winter, which is why they do 6 more weeks of spring or 6 more weeks of winter.
It makes it easier for the groundhog.
A little bit of a scam. I don't know if you knew that. So as the second half of winter goes on, it will get warmer. So we're going to have this period from about mid-December to mid-February that'll be the coldest, and what's right in between? January.
Exactly.
January is our month. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. But first, let's talk a little bit more about in terms of moisture, because we had some months last winter with plenty of moisture. Let's look at what the trends look like for this upcoming winter. So here's kind of, so we head into winter. What's it look like? All right, nothing distinctive for us, but notice some things in the north right there. This is that influence of La Nina, where the jet stream sets up because of La Nina. So let's see what happens now as you add in December, January, February.
And there's your jet stream going down, impacting the Great Lakes, the Midwest, and heading toward New York and New England. But this shows New England being a little dry.
And this map right here looks just like that La Nina map that you showed us. So it just lets you know we're going to get more of these little clippers, smaller little bits of snow, you know, some nuisance ones. Enough to make it go to the grocery store, but just a couple inches or less. It's just disruptive for half a day.
Yes.
So this is what we're seeing as we head into the middle of the winter. But now let's get to the stuff we really dug into. These are the clear signals for how much snow we'll get. And let's get started with this, Kathy.
Well, this is interesting because obviously when you look at October, this year was the 5th warmest, and we looked at all the years that had warm Octobers, and you can see the majority had snowfalls that were low.
Yeah.
Now, 1947 is not in our records. They didn't start as far as like La Nina, El Nino until 1950. But I cross-referenced which ones were La Nina years. 2021, 1971, didn't have the data for 1947. In 2007, as I recall, was on the cusp. So that was really close as well. So is there a huge correlation between La Ninas and the warmth and, you know, the lower snowfall? I couldn't find one exactly, but there's definitely a correlation between warm and dry falls like we're seeing now and when we pulled those lower snowfalls. Let's take a look at another graphic, because you did a lot of this research, and it's fascinating, Drew, when we go back and look at it. So
let's expand. So this includes September, because September was warm as well. So when you look at when you had warm September, Octobers, because when you combine the two, this is the 5th warmest on record in Philadelphia. What were those winters looking like? Look, it's the same. Nada, not much.
Not much at all. And of course, 2021 shows up again because that was one of the warmest Octobers. And then when we look at the dry Octobers, it's very interesting as well. Of course, this one will be the driest of all time. And you look at most of them, 16 inches or lower. You have the outlier in 1963, but the majority definitely on the lower snowfall side.
And I put a little more stock in the more recent years just because that accounts for recent trends we've had. When we compute the average highs, when we show you in the forecast, they're just looking at the last 30 years. So that's where I focus. I know we're seeing that big outlier there in 78, but I really focus on, say, like a year like 2001 in that graphic. But this is the same thing you were just mentioning. It was really dry when you combine September and October, just like this was the driest October on record in Philly. If you look at September, October, that was the driest on record. What were those winters like? And overall, the signals are clear. We looked at all of those, and they were different years. It signals not much snow.
In 1978, I mean, I just recall hearing about that storm. Like, that was a huge storm for us, obviously, 38 inches of snow, and that was one of those anomalies. So as we continue to dig deeper into all of this research and we look at some of the snowfalls, these numbers are very interesting as well. So these are all the snowfalls since 2019, 2020 to current time. Now, as we recall, when we looked at that global pattern, the PDO, that was also from March of 2000 on, and that was in the negative, signaling the warmer, drier winters. This is the same time period.
Right.
These are the snowfalls that reflect that Pacific decadal oscillation, and they're all low.
Here's the bottom line. You can't say, oh, it's warmer now, so we don't get snow anymore. It's not the way it works. There's other factors at play beyond that. We have this warming trend globally and locally that affect how much snow we get. But it is startling looking at those numbers.
This gives us confidence because we're saying, wait a minute, the PDO has been negative. That means a milder winter, but that's been since 2000. Oh, look at the snowfall since 2000. It's, 2020. It's just staggering when you see the correlation. So let's move on.
It's time. And by the way, just to point this out too, there's no coincidences. When stuff starts coming together and in sync, well, everything's connected. The Earth's a big global system.
Yes, it is.
So this is why we spend so much time looking globally and locally because everything's connected.
Absolutely. So as we look at the forecast, the first thing that we're going to do is talk about our winter numbers. So if you're familiar with our Weather Authority forecast, we always talk about the snowballs, right? And these are the numbers for this winter that we will start with. And maybe some of them will get you excited.
Yes.
16, 14, 1, 5, 2, 17. We've even played the lottery with these numbers.
We have.
We'll see how we do.
We're still here, so we didn't win that year.
We didn't win yet,
this
but
year.
we might win this year. So these are the winter numbers. So if we go in order, 16. Our first winter number. And if you look at that graphic, there are gifts.
There sure are. There's a clue for you.
So there's a 16% chance of a white Christmas. Now, normally in the Philadelphia area, or in the city, there's about a 25% chance.
Usually.
But it's going to be lower this year. And obviously, as you head toward the Lehigh Valley, Allentown, the Poconos, even our northern western suburbs, there's a higher probability, lesser as you go towards South Jersey. But this year, unfortunately, only a 16% chance.
And the reason there's that difference is it's all about where's the cold. Well, the Lehigh Valley, you're closer to the mountains. No wonder why you're going to have more opportunities for the cold. For us, say here in the Philly area and down to South Jersey, tougher to have that cold in place. And it's been tough just to have the snow on the ground because when we get these cold days, all of a sudden we get warm days. So that's hurt us for not having a whole lot of snow on the ground. And then just getting snow on Christmas, it's mainly been flurries over the last 30 years.
It hasn't been that big of a deal, unfortunately. So there's always hope for next year.
Yes.
Our next snowball is 14.
This one's interesting. What do you think that means? This is a total, by the way. And it's not the snowfall total, but it's an interesting total. Drum roll? Low budget drum roll.
Days with snow on the ground. Does that sound like a lot? It's like 2 full weeks. No, it's not a lot, especially if you have a nuisance here, a nuisance snowfall or a wintry mix there. It's not a lot. And if you have one good snow, say a 6-inch or greater snowfall, that could be on the ground for 5 or 6 days.
Right. And that's what we're looking at. And to that point, it goes back to we can't hold the cold. When we have these little really cold days or get some snow, then it just warms up again. And we expect more of that this winter. So that's why that number is low. So we won't see a whole lot of snow lasting through winter. And that's been the trend the last couple of years.
Exactly. But guess what? We have to take a break.
Oh, you're making them wait?
I know, they're
telling us.
Wait? Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry. We have to take a short break, a 2-minute break. Then we come back and we're going to go through the rest of the numbers, including the snowball, the all-important snowball that says how much snow we'll get in Philadelphia this winter. We'll be back in 2 minutes. I'm terrible, aren't I?
No, it's good. We got to do this.
Welcome back to Fox Weather Philly. This is the official Weather Authority Winter Weather Outlook. I'm meteorologist Kathy Orr with my colleague Drew Anderson, and this is exciting.
It's time to let you know how much snow we're getting. We're so close to that number, but first let's talk about the coldest part of the winter. We talked about it earlier. It'll be January, right in the middle of winter. So that's when we'll have the best potential for our bigger snows. So let's talk about when you're going out to the grocery store. How many?
How about 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be about 5 runs to the grocery store. Get the milk, get the eggs, get the cornflakes, and the candy.
You know what does really well, too? We talk about all that stuff. Meat sells really well, and orange juice is usually pretty empty as well. It's not just the bread, the milk, and the eggs. Add those two
For
in the mix.
mimosas?
Oh, I like the way
Oh,
you
you
think.
weren't thinking that.
That's what you need. So let's break down that number a little bit more. So why are going those 5 times? Well, here's what we got going. No, there's no blizzard this year. We're not getting snowed in. 2 of those will be plowable. So we'll have 2 bigger snows, and then we'll have 3 inconvenient ones. We're talking ones of a couple inches that last about a half day. And to focus on the bigger ones, that's our next snowball. So we'll have 2 big ones that you'll remember. The nuisance ones, you're not going to remember.
No, these are the ones that you're going to remember. These would be snowstorms with 3 inches or more. They could be 6 inches. They could be 7. They could be 1 storm with a foot. But these are going to be the snowstorms that have more snow, obviously, with them. And those will be the ones that we remember.
And as long as it's during the week, close school for a day.
Yes.
But, you know, lately
But
we've
now-
been snow. And oh, yeah.
Now with remote.
Virtual.
Yeah, right?
Maybe I'm speaking too soon.
Yeah, those are the good old days, Drew. Those might be behind us. So are we ready for our number?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's bring in all that data we talked about, everything we looked at, and all that has led to this. How much snow, Kathy, do we get this winter?
Okay, here is the number, guys. 17. That is the snowball, yes. 17 inches of snow this winter in Philadelphia. And when we compare that to last year, it's more. We had 11 inches of snow last year in Philadelphia for the winter season, but it is less than the average. The average is 23 inches of snow in Philadelphia, and that is based on the National Weather Service data from 1999 to 2024. And we look at our winter numbers.
There they are.
16, 14, 1, 5, 2. And your mega ball winter number is 17. So those are your winter numbers. And of course, we're also talking about a higher accumulation north and west of the city toward the Lehigh Valley, closer to that 22-inch mark, and a lower accumulation toward South Jersey, around 12 inches or so. But 17 is your number for Philly.
And the reason it's a little higher this year is because of that La Nina. Going to that, it gives us more opportunities for that moisture to kind of be here and break off. So that's why we're doing a little better than last year, but still below average snow lovers. Sorry.
I know. Well, that's all the time we have. We want to thank our team, of course, Suserio, and also
Scott Williams,
of course. Thank you, Drew. I'm Kathy Orr. We're going to be back, of course, tomorrow with more